How you do, fellow kids? Nah, I'm just joking. I'm young. I'm about redacted. Yeah. But today, in case you haven't guessed from, damn it, from my merch, I will be discussing the Legend of Zelda series and putting it all in one timeline. Woo! Now, the first thing we have to do and trying to put everything in one coherent timeline is start at the beginning. At Skyward Sword. Okay. The timeline starts off pretty normally. We have Skyward Sword, where of course we meet the very first hero in Zelda. Where they defeat Demise. Now Demise, of course, as any self-respecting Zelda fan knows, puts a curse on them. But it's weird because there's a specific line that is the basis for my entire theory. I know you can't tell, but I'm actually smiling in here. Just ignore this, please. But it states that the people with the blood of the goddess, but the spirit, not the blood, the soul or the essence of the hero, will be doomed to repeat the cycle of his repeat forever. Now, that line is something I've seen a lot of people overlook, because it means that not every Link is the hero. Now, the first one definitely is. I ain't going to deny that the first one to seal away Demise is definitely a good guy, but who says his name has to be Link? What if his name was how do I put this? What if his name was Tingle? Now, I know this is crazy, but like when you're passing down a story from generation to generation, names are bound to change. They could have changed it from Tingle to Link. If you don't believe that this has happened before in our history. Heck, Poseidon used to be Neptune. Basically every god has his name and purpose switched around at some point. Plus, who would you rather have said that saved you? A guy called Link or a guy called Tingle? Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, with that out of the way, our next game in the timeline is Minish Cap. Also, I just want to point out that if Ganon at any time turned into a goose as his final form instead of a pig, Link would have no chance. I am a Canadian citizen. I live in the province of Redacted, and we swear allegiance to geese every year in blood. They are true predators, and we have only lived so long because they have let us. Do not mess with geese. Next, we have Four Swords. Okay, next we have Four Swords Adventure. Yeah, I'm not really sure about what's the difference between Four Swords and Four Swords Adventure either. I don't even think Nintendo does. But this is one of the most important bits because this crosses over with another game, Tingle's Rosy Ruby Land. They actually take place in the same time. Also, I should not try to draw any symbol from Tingle's Rosy Ruby Land, but If you know what this is, then you know. But in Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land, he's trying to collect rupees. But you may be thinking, if Tinkle also appears in this, then where is he collecting his rupees? But what if I told you, Force Gems, which are the main collectible of the game, are the same as rupees? What do I mean? That rupees are the same thing as Force Gems? I'm glad you asked. You see, in the game Four Swords Adventure, I really can't tell the difference between the two. We see time and time again that rupees are that Force Gems are a power source of sorts. They give you power. Now, throughout various games like Twilight Princess, we see rupees being essentially used as the same thing. Power. Well, mostly magic power. Say for instance, this kind of this armor. You remember it? You remember my totally recognizable drawing? Yeah. If you remember what it does, then you will remember that there's a little something important about it. It can grant you invincibility only if you have rupees on you. Insane. Yeah. And this isn't the only time it's been shown. Like in the beginning of the series, in Skyward Sword, you remember those little factory drones? You remember them? How that they had these special little time crystals they could use to go back before. Yeah, I remember. And they were crystals. Every time there's power in the Zeldaverse, they're crystals. They're always crystals. So, and if you remember, and if this is bringing to mind something like one particular sentence that's really annoying in the most popular Zelda game to date, then good. Because you should be reminded of the Master Sword has run out of energy. Those are very, very specific words. Ran out of energy. What? The Master Sword dates back to a time way before, well, anything. I forget the specific lore about it because I'm going crazy. But hear me out. What if for years, for millennia, the Master Sword has been using rupees as a power source? Why do you think you can always get rupees when you cut down the grass? They're everything. They're literal energy. So that brings me to one of my many mind-boggling theories that during, I don't know, maybe one of the Zelda games, the game before Hyrule Warriors Breath of the Wild, Age of Calamity, Zelda games, I would say they're really long and confusing, but I've seen what Kingdom Hearts has done. A period of time in between, a period of time before, Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, there was, a stock market fall on rupees. There was a huge shortage. People could stop finding them. Well, they could still find them. They were just a lot more rare. Because this isn't baseless or anything. Think about it. Think about it. In Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity, Link is a designated knight. The Kingdom of Hyrule is still standing. Why am I constantly running out of rupees to try to pay to make my Master Sword the strongest it can be? Huh? Huh? No, it doesn't make sense. If it's for a Master Sword, one of the only things that can say, Ganon, then I should have unlimited funding. Why don't I have unlimited funding? It's because before Age of Calamity happens, there's a weird shortage on rupees. They're really hard to find. Next, we have Ocarina of Time. Now, if you remember in that game, near the end, Ganon is defeated because he refuses to turn into a goose. If you just turn into a goose, at the very least, you'll rule over us Canadians. But when he does that, he destroys his castle. But they manage to leave, but the Kingdom of Hyrule, but Ganon has the Triforce of Power. Is it too much of a stretch to think that Ganon, in his immense power, didn't just destroy Hyrule Castle, destroyed Hyrule? Is it so much of a stretch to think that, oh, I don't know, Ganon maybe, just maybe, destroyed Hyrule, ended up causing a huge flood? Which, of course, because I'm right about this, don't you dare try to prove me wrong, is where Wind Waker fits. Of course, near the end, at the end of the game, Link, or what he should actually be called, Tingle and Link go off and sail away to try to find and establish a new Hyrule, which is exactly where Link's Awakening fits. Because if anyone remembers, Link is caught in a storm. Honestly, I still don't know what happened at that end of the game. It was just weird. But Link's Awakening happens either in his dream or on an island that's the manifestation of a dream. Either way, he wakes up shipwrecked. Now, this is going to get hecka weird, because in Phantom Hourglass, Tetra, Link are attacked by the throw a random evil guy. I all the same, I forget. And Link, in the start of the game, he washes ashore after being attacked. Now, is it too much of a stretch to believe that in the time now Wind Waker happened, the evil guy attacked Tingle and Tetra on the boat, and causing Link to shipwreck, getting him stuck on that island, which after he breaks free to Windfish, which I don't know if the Windfish is supposed to be Link. Nintendo is really vague about this. But then he washes ashore, and that's when Phantom Hourglass happens. Now, the next game in our timeline is Spirit Tracks with a Hero of Trains. Yeah, no, that's not a joke. Nintendo actually called a Tingle a Hero of Trains. Yeah. Nintendo can be really weird. But we know that this takes place right after Phantom Hourglass, because the next Tingle is raised by one of Tetra's old crewmates. The next game in our timeline is, well, the Oracle games. This happens because another iteration of what should be called Tingle is transported to these lands. To these various lands, and he helps out kill the various bad guy, but then, oh no, Twin Rovers secretly had a completely ulterior motive to try to resurrect Ganon, but thankfully this was just Dum Ganon, only brute strength Ganon, not any of his actual intelligence. He was a mindless monster, so naturally, Link was able to, Link or Tingle, because it shouldn't be Link, it should be Tingle, is, was able to defeat him. God, the Zelda Timeline is so weird. Nintendo, why do I have to do this for you? Just use Tingle. The next Zelda game isn't either Breath of the Wild 2 or Tingle, a Tingle game, then I will do nothing about it because I am lazy as heck. Next, we have Three Swords Adventure. Wait, no. Three Swords, Three Swords or something. Next game we have is Tingle's Rosy Rupee Land of Love. Yeah, no, let that sink in. That is an actual game that Nintendo made. This is a bit of a sad story, because Tingle, our Lord and Savior, he is trapped there. Skull Kid got him in there. Now, Tingle will spend the rest of his days drawing maps, because he realized that in order to do anything, he would need the Ocarina of Time. And since he didn't, but someone else actually had it, that would not work. So he decided that at the very least, when the person who did have the Ocarina of Time did come, he would bring him he would at least try to supply him with everything he needed. Which is why he's selling maps in Majora's Mask. Now, when Link eventually does come, he's kind of the only one who can actually leave. For, honestly, I don't know. But eventually, Tingle dies. I know. Tingle dies in Termina. Sad story. But he does. But that doesn't happen for another few years. Or decades, I guess. But the next game is A Link to the Past, where our fake hero goes back to his uncle, which we we meet in the Oracle games to just hang out with, you know? But eventually, Princess Zelda's castle is completely invaded. She summons Link's uncle or grandpa. It really depends on the stories that have been passed down. The Legend of Zelda, where Link, after using all the Triforce to bring back everybody who died, including his grandpa or uncle, depends on honestly who you ask. Because he did not have a proper balance of all three virtues, wisdom, courage, and power, the Triforce split, which naturally Zelda kind of being really angry because that's literally the most powerful artifact, except for every other artifact that grants wishes. Yeah. She tells Link to go grab all the stuff back. Grab all the Triforce pieces. Which is where we find ourselves in The Legend of Zelda. Now, eventually, Zelda does get kidnapped again, and after Link finally grabs all the, I think it was 18 pieces of Triforce, he goes back to Hyrule to try to rescue her or whatever. Oh god. Which is where we have the adventure of Link, the black sheep of the Zelda family. Okay, next, after all of that, we have personally one of my favorite Zelda games. I think it's just a really cool mechanic. We have Link Between Worlds. Yeah. In this game, the evil sorceress Yuga, decides to do the same thing that the other guy, I will never try to pronounce his name, did in Link to the Past, steal all the various maidens to try to bring back Ganondorf. Eventually, Link does die, as we all do. Which is where we have Twilight Princess, when new iterations of Link, or Tingle as he should be called, comes. We know it's there because guess what? Tingle, at this point in this point of the story, Tingle dies as a full-grown adult who's mastered the blade, who's mastered every possible technique, where he goes and helps instruct Link, the new Link, because Tingle's a good guy. He may be salty that he it's kind of Link's fault that Tingle died in there, but But that's where we are. Tingle is trapped. Tingle is that knight that helps teach Link all these new fancy techniques. Next, we have, I'm stealing this from Gilbert, Brian David Gilbert, I cannot remember his full name, where it's Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, where time breaks, and and I mean all of these various timelines, well, no, not timelines, what is this? Nintendo's timeline? No, this is the correct timeline. This is Redacted's timeline. Honk. 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 But yeah. So, that's where that goes. Now the only question. So next is Breath of the Wild, and Breath of the Wild 2 is kind of nebulous because because it could take place either before or oh no, no, not the black sheep. After everything else, after Breath of the Wild, I really, so it's kind of in a weird in between. I'm not even going to touch the fact that Lorule, the Twilight Realm, and the Dark World most likely all take place, are all the same like realm or dimension, that, but just like throughout the ages, and how time probably works a lot differently there, and like 1 year in the Zelda, in like this kind of time is like, I don't know, maybe 100 or 1,000, and that's why everything changes every time. And I don't really feel like it's saying the obvious. Well, I guess it's not obvious since no one I've watched a lot of Zelda series, and no one's stated that Ganon or Demise probably definitely originally came from Lorule. Yeah, because who here has remembered the design of Demise's sword? Yeah, that's right. It's a upside down Triforce. Okay, to reiterate and to retcon one last time, we start off with Skyward Sword, where our hero, instead of being called Link, was actually called Tingle. It's not Link, it's Tingle, because would you rather say that you got saved by a guy called Link or Tingle? Yeah. Next, we have Minish Cap, not very important. Four Swords Adventure. Then Four Swords, where our first iteration of Tinkle shows up, which actually takes place at the same time as Tingle's Rupee Land, and where we discover that throughout the ages, rupees have been used as a power source for invincible armor, the Master Sword, and near out here, where near Hyrule Warriors Age of Calamity happens, is when where a shortage of rupees happened, and which is why they're so hard to find compared to other games. Next we have Ocarina of Time, where Link or just timey-wimey stuff happens. Ganon ends up destroying the entire castle, which ends up also causing a chain reaction that sinks bits and pieces of Hyrule into the sea, which is where we have Wind Waker when they defeat Ganon in that game. Let's see what happens. we have Link and Tetra and the rest of the crew get attacked, which is where we have Link's Awakening, which I have no clue what actually happened there, which directly leads to Phantom Hourglass. After that, a new Kingdom of Hyrule is founded. We know that this happens right after there because a character from here it's seen in there. He's hella old in this one. Next is the Oracle games. Then it is a Fashion Fest. Next is Tingle's Rupee Land of Love, where he gets trapped in a book. Then he gets trapped in Termina by Skull Kid, to where he decides to help Link out by supplying him with maps. Next is a Link to the Past, where after Link gets out of Termina, he goes to live with his grandpa or uncle, it varies, in from the Oracle games, where they both get a call to go help defend the castle. Link, because he's not the real hero, just a fake, because history has a tendency to rename heroes and whatnot. He ends up splitting the Triforce, which is where we have the original Legend of Zelda. Then Link goes back to Hyrule in the Adventure of Link, the black sheep of the family. Then we have a Link Between Worlds, where Lowell is a thing, which is also probably where the mines originated from, because of his upside down Triforce on his sword, very similar to Lowell's Triforce. And Link to the Past and Twilight Princess is various Dark Realms are also most likely because of all that. Then we have Hyrule Warriors Definitive Edition, where it basically messes up all my strings, and it makes it so that everything happens in right here, which is where we have Breath of the Wild, and maybe Breath of the Wild 2. There are some series that state that Breath of the Wild 2 is happening both in the past and the present. I personally have no clue, but yep. But well, this is my all my conspiracies, my conspiracy board, and my take on the Zelda timeline. Thank you so much for watching. Wait, no, that doesn't make sense. Throughout this video, we've seen how the Link family is constantly trying to take the spotlight, and from Tingle bloodline has barely survived. Link is the real villain. The Link family, they're the real demise. Wake up, Hylia. The Link that you worship so much as a hero has been your villain this entire time. Us, the revolution, we shall rise again. And this man This man right here will be our symbol of retribution. No longer shall we steal our power sources. No longer shall we break into our houses and break our pots. We will use Tingle, the unspoken hero, as a symbol for the revolution.